All right, welcome to the fourth video of the Caster Project tutorial. If you were unfortunate enough to watch the first version of this video, you may have been one of the folks to find out that I only managed to record the top quarter of my screen. So while it's nice and zoomed in, it's not very helpful to see the whole screen and see what I was doing. So we're going to go ahead and have to get rid of that version, and we'll do another one. But this is a great example. I'll go ahead, open up Fusion. I've got the folder where I've saved my Caster project, and you'll notice right now I've got the completed model because that's what I did for the last project. But I need to go back and click over here on version 23. Click back on all my versions, and you can see every time I saved and all the little comments I made. So this assembly, even though it's correct, I need to go back and do this again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to version 22. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to open version 22. It gives me a little yellow exclamation point to let me know that this is not the latest version, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to go ahead and hide the data panel, and we're going to start doing some work to assemble this. And the first thing you'll notice is that our save functionality is grayed out. I can't save this model as it is. What I need to do is come over here and do save as latest. This is because I opened up a previous version. So it brings up a warning that says the newer version, version 23 is available. If I do save latest, it'll jump over to 24, and it's not going to save any of the changes I did by 23. And I'm gonna be okay with that. So this is going to jump it over. It asked me if I want to do a milestone, and that's for if you're delivering products to customers as major milestones. I don't need to do that, but it's going to give me a little description. Saved as latest from version 22. Just let me know I skipped over. So I'm going to say OK. And if I look back at my data panel, now it'll show version 24. Version 24 up here, and it lets me know saved as latest that I kind of skipped over this, and from here on out it should be fine. So we're going to go over the assembly, how to assemble all of these individual components into this caster wheel as a whole. So what we're going to do is we need to pick one of our components. They're kind of all right here on top of each other right now. If I kind of click and drag, I can move any of these components anywhere I want to. They're kind of just all over the place. And that's not really going to be helpful. I'm going to come back over here to say revert. Puts them all back in their original position. I need to take one of these pieces and just kind of pin it down. So I'm going to come over here where it says plate, right click on that and hit ground. And now there's a little safety pin in the plate. So everything else is still movable, but if I click on the plate and try to drag that, it won't move. Click on revert once again, put everything back where I had it. And now I can start assembling things to the plate. Since this is fixed in space, I can joint other things to it. I'm going to go ahead, turn off the eyeballs on my other components, turn off their visibility so that all I have is the plate and the frame. I can grab the frame and kind of move it around wherever I want to, but the frame stays placed. I'm going to go back to revert. And we're going to use this command right here under the Assemble tab. You can either click on the arrow and go through the options, or you can just click on Joint. It's going to bring up an option to joint component 1 or 2. It's already got this one shaded out since that is the pinned down version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of these joint origins. When I hover over the model, you can see all these little white markers. Those are joint origins. Those are markers where I can joint this piece to the other piece. So I'm going to come over here to the top. I'm going to kind of hover over this section. If I move my mouse, it's going to bring up other sections as I move. So I want to hold down the control key on my computer, or you can hold the command if you're on a Mac. And that's going to, as I move my mouse, it's going to lock in that joint origin. So I'm going to go ahead and click that to select that. Automatically, you can see that the frame part went transparent, and now component 2, the frame, is the active component. So I'm going to hold down Shift and my middle mouse button so I can orbit. You can use these keys down here to either orbit or pan around. I'm using a 3-button mouse, so that makes it a little bit easier. And same thing, you can kind of see that as I hover over this, it brings up all those different little white points that can be different origins. But I want to go ahead and grab on the center section on the blue. I'm going to hold down my Control or my Command key again and select this center point. And right now it's on the rigid command, but I want to go ahead and do revolute. It's going to kind of give me a little preview that this frame can spin underneath the plate, and that's how I want it to be joined together. I'm going to go up here to my home view. I'm going to leave all of these as they are and hit OK. So now I can grab the green piece and I can kind of rotate it. You can kind of see the marker up here. And as I click and drag this, it doesn't move wherever it wants to. It's only allowed to rotate in that plane. We've kind of constrained the motion of this thing as it would be if it was assembled. So I can come up here, I can double click on my little flag marker, put it back to 0 degrees, and it's back to its original position. So now we'll go ahead, we'll turn off the plate, we'll turn on our hub. Our hub is going to have the flanges and the wheels and everything else attached to it. So let me go ahead and turn off the frame as well. I'm going to turn on one of the flanges. I'm going to join this flange to the hub. Neither one of these are grounded, so I can still move both of them. This is the joint from my first 2 parts, so don't worry about this. Same process. I'm going to come up here, start the joint command. It's going to ask me to pick one of the components. I'm going to hover over this face, hit the Control key, and grab the center of that hole. And this one goes transparent. I'm going to use the orbit command. I can use my 3-button mouse, or you can come down here and hit orbit. I'm going to come around, and I want to grab the center of this top circle. So I'm going to hover over this face, hold down Control, and select that. And you can see it's still on revolute. It keeps the last joint that you had. I want to change this one to rigid. And kind of shakes. Let me know that those are locked into place. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK. That's the way I want that assembled. We'll go back into our original view. I'm going to actually turn off flange 1. I know it's still there. I'm going to turn on flange 2. It's all the way over here, which is fine. I'm going to leave flange 1 on just for a second. I've already got a flange on this side of the hub, so I need to put this flange on this side. Start the joint command again. Use the orbit to come over here. Hover over this face. Hit Control to keep the joint origins from moving away. Select this one at the top center. Orbit back around. And this is flange 2. I'm going to hover over this face, hold down Control, select that joint origin, and it leaves this flange sitting there in space. Don't freak out, it's still attached. It's just going to show me these 2 parts. And this is the rigid constraint, and it says 180 degrees, and I'm fine with that because these 2 parts are matched up. You're able to rotate these however you like, but it picked the right shape, the right position, and 180 degrees is where I want it. So once I hit OK, it's going to go back. It's going to show me that both of those are jointed together. And if I look, I can see that the 2 orange pieces are on either side of the gray. There's no overlap. So that's my 2 flanges on my hub. Let's go ahead and we'll turn on the tire. We're going to put the tire in between the 2 flanges. I'm going to grab the joint command again. And I want to put the joint command right between here. And the easiest way to do that is to grab this gray cylinder, hit cancel. I'm going to just drag my tire out of the way a little bit. I need the center of this circle, which is going to be in here. So I'm going to start the joint command. And I go to that ring right there. Make sure I got that highlighted. Hold down Control. and then select that center. It turns the hub translucent, lets me know that that's the first part I've selected. And now I'm going to come over here to my red tire and kind of grab this inside face, and it brings up, whenever I move my mouse it disappears. I'm going to hold over here and hit Control. Brings up, this is on the outside face. This little triangle is absolutely in the center, and then this is on the far back face. So I want to grab this center one because I've already grabbed the center of my hub. So I want these two centers to line up. And it leaves the other flanges behind. That's totally okay. It's got rigid. We want everything to be firmly attached. That's okay. And when I hit OK, it snaps everything together. So we can see everything is nice and perfectly symmetrical. Same amount of flange on each side, same amount of hub on each side, and the tire perfectly in the center. The kingpin is going to get added to the plate in the frame. So we can go ahead and do that now. We'll turn both of those on. This pin is just kind of floating around. So I'm going to go ahead and start the joint command. I'm going to use the orbit. And I'm going to grab the bottom side and kind of zoom in. I'm going to grab this face right there in the bottom side. I'm going to select that. I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab this bottom face of the green thing, hit Control, and grab that center origin. And it put them together, but it didn't put them the way I wanted to. I wanted this to be facing upwards. I can come over here, hit the flip command, and instead of this being perfectly flush, I'm going to go ahead and drag this arrow down. I want this to be 10 millimeters below the bottom of this. So not only can you have the joints be in the same plane, but you can also do a little bit of offset. And this is offset in the Z direction. So that looks good. I'll go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to hide the kingpin and the frame and the plate. So I just have my tire. The next thing I have is the shaft and the bushing. So I'm going to go ahead and turn these off just for a moment, and just so I have the shaft and the bushing. And I want this bushing to be centered on the shaft. So we're going to go ahead and open up the joint command. I'm going to grab the shaft. You can kind of see there's a joint origin on the end. There's a joint origin. I got to be careful and hold down Control. There's a joint origin in the middle and a joint origin on this end. So I want this, I have to hold down Control. I want the center of the shaft. You highlight the bushing, and same thing, there's one on the end of the bushing, one in the center of the bushing, and one on the other end of the bushing. I'm going to hold down Control and grab the center of the bushing, and that lines those two up. And we're going to say that this joint right here between these two, this is where we're going to say this is where our rotation occurs. So this shaft will be fixed to the frame, and this bushing will be fixed to the hub. So this is where we want the rotation to occur. So I'm going to change this to a revolute joint, which allows it to spin. You can kind of see the flag doing a little preview. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the hub. I want this bushing to be in the center of the hub. I can go ahead and turn off the shaft. It's still jointed in there. I just don't need it anymore. Hit another joint command. Same thing. I want to grab the center of this bushing right there, and I'm going to put it on that center. When I come over here, this is only half of the hub. It doesn't go to the other. This is the right half. This is the left half. I want this center point right here. So I'm going to hold down Control, grab that joint origin. Kind of look at it from the side. Go over here to my view cube. And it's nice. There's nothing sticking out of either side. It's nice and perfectly flush on both corners. So I know I got the hub in there perfectly straight. So that's the way we want that. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Come back here to my home view. I can turn on the shaft. and it's still inside of there, I can turn on both flanges. They're both still attached. I can turn on the tire, and it's still attached. So the last thing I have to do, I'm going to turn some of these off so that they're not in the way. I want this shaft, which has got all the wheel parts, I want to put this in between here. And if I do that, I can kind of look this way. This is not the same size, so I can't just put one end here or the other end here. I need to grab the middle of this shaft, and the problem is I need to grab the middle of this frame, but there's nothing there in the middle of the frame. But luckily that's a common occurrence. So instead of just starting the joint command, I'm going to click on the assemble, and I'm going to do joint origin. And when I click on it, it says that I've moved my positions, so I can just say leave everything in the position they are. One of the options is between two faces. So I'm going to select this option. It highlights blue. It just asks me to select plane 1 and plane 2. So I'm going to use this inside as plane 1. I'm going to orbit and use this as plane 2. And then snap. I want it to be right there on the center axis of those things. So I'm going to select that dot right there. And it puts a little joint origin right there in the center between those two parts of the frame. I'm going to say OK. So now I've got a joint origin right there, which is absolutely what I needed. So now I can start the regular joint command. I can grab the center of this shaft. I can now put it on this joint origin, which is the center of those two parts of the frame. And it's going to slide in there. And this is revolute, because that's what I had before, but I want this to be fixed. So I'm going to say rigid. So this shaft is not going to spin inside of here. It's the bushing that's going to spin on the shaft. So I can kind of go back in, add in back all those parts, the hub and the flange and the tire, the plate, and the kingpin. And that should be all of my parts. And the best thing to do is to kind of grab this and start pulling on it and see if anything comes loose. I'm grabbing the blue part, nothing's moving. I'm grabbing the yellow. The yellow part is spinning because it's attached to the green. So when I spin the green, it's going to spin the yellow as well if I spin the yellow. If I come in here and grab this, it's going to kind of wiggle the whole frame, but it's not going to slide out. If I grab the tire, I meant to grab the hub. There you go. It doesn't look like it's spinning much, but it is. Let me go ahead and just double click on that joint. There you go. And you can see as I spin that, the whole tire spins around, which is what we want. So I'll type in 0, put it back to its. Trying to double click on that, type in 0, put it back to its original position. This is going to be helpful for doing our drawing. If this is still at some weird angle when we do our drawing, this is going to be a little bit off center. So I'm going to come back here to this flag, type back in 0 as well. So when you look at it from this kind of either this front view or from this top angle, this is a good view. See everything that's symmetrical. I've got an equal amount of shaft sticking out. The frame is symmetrical. The hub is sticking out. Both parts of the flange, the tire, everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and save this again. I'm going to save this as assembly. Try number 2, because this is the second time I've done that video. Hopefully it's recording the proper way this time. And now I've got my assembly done. So the next thing to do is to start my drawing. I'm going to come up here to where it says design and come down here where it says drawing from design. It's going to open up this menu. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. We want to make sure that on our drawings, we've got all these markings of millimeters on our drawings, and that is not the default setup. So you can change that once you create the drawing, but it's better just to do it before you get started. I'm going to come up here to my to where it says Dave Cribbs, or just your initials. I'm going to open up my preferences. Once that opens up, I'm going to come over here to the drawing submenu. Make sure that this is checked. Override or restore format defaults below. You're going to check that box. That's going to allow us to change one of the default options. And we're going to check this box that says display dimension units. Make sure that is checked. You'll hit apply and then OK. And that way when you create a drawing, it's going to start out with all of the normal default settings, except for the fact that it's got the units turned on. So we'll hit OK. If we look on our data panel, you can see that I've created. I'll have to save it first. Caster Model Tutorial Drawing. Call this try number 2. And we'll save it. So even though I've got a set of drawings done from the first video, we'll just do another set over here. This is called try 2. But you can see that this has got a different symbol than the solid model. Okay, so we're going to create a set of drawings that looks identical to this set. So we go ahead, the first thing we need to do is insert a base view. So we'll click on this, gives a little preview. We're going to change this size to be 1:1. It's kind of big, but I think we should have enough room for it. We're going to change the style to shaded, and we're going to change our orientation to be northeast. And it kind of gives us that perspective view. And for our first drawing, we're just going to put that right there, hit OK. And that is the first page of our drawings. If you kind of look at it, I've got it in the same place, looking good. Next thing I need to do is just a drawing just of the top plate. So I'll come back in here, come down to the bottom, hit the plus button. It's going to add in another sheet. We're just start the same thing. We're going to add in a base view. We're going to change this to maybe 1:2. That looks a little bit too small. Let's see if I have a better option in here. 1:2, 1:1. We'll just leave this 1:2. Might be a little bit on the small side. If it was absolutely necessary, you could just type in 2:3. It makes it a little bit bigger. That's 1:1.5. We'll go ahead and do that. I think that should be a good view. Same thing. We're going to do this first one as shaded. Change it to northeast isometric. And we're going to put the whole thing up here and say OK. And once we click and say OK, it brings up a little browser tree of all the parts that we have. And for this one, all I want is the frame. So I'm going to uncheck all of these other boxes. Or all I want is the plate. So sorry. All I need is the plate. I'm going to go ahead and just leave that right there. Kind of click away. It's got a little extra line there. Sometimes there's little lines left over, and there's not much you can do about that. Hopefully that when we save this, that'll go away. So that's my perspective view, my orthographic. So now with my orthogonal, I'm going to come up here and select another base view. This time, instead of the northeast isometric, I want to grab the top view. I think I do. Let me check and see. Yeah, I'm going to do the top view and a side view. So I'm going to come over here. It should keep my last saved, so I'll do the same thing, the 2:3 again. This time we're going to do visible and hidden edges. We'll select that. Put this right up here. And let's hit OK. And this time, since I selected hidden edges, it does all this as dotted lines, but we're going to uncheck all of those except for the plate. And there's the plate right there, just like we need. So now I can hit projected view. I'm going to use this as my parent view. Kind of drag this down to right here. It's going to keep all the same properties, all the same size, and it's going to be lined up perfectly vertical. And I'll put that one right there, say check. And you can see how it's got the dashed lines. Those are lines that are on the inside of the part that we wouldn't normally be able to see. So now I need to go ahead and start putting in the dimensions. You want to put in the exact same dimensions on your model that I have on mine. The way to do that is come up here, use the dimension tool. Yeah, we'll start with that. Put in the dimension tool. I know that I need this distance from the center of this hole to the center of that one. I clicked, moving my mouse up, and I'll click to place that dimension. I still have the dimension tool open, so I can grab the center of that hole, down to the center of this hole, slide my mouse over, and then click to place. If you look on the original drawing, there's like little crosshairs. Those are the centers of the holes. So I can go ahead and add those. That is using this tool called the center mark. You start this tool, and as long as you grab any of the circles, it'll put a center mark in those circles for you, a little set of crosshairs. When you go back, grab the dimension tool again. I need to grab a 10 and a 24 diameter, circle with a line through it as diameter. R means radius. You can see I already put the 102 and the 84 in. So I need a 10, a 24, and a 90. I don't need to enter in those dimensions. It's going to grab those dimensions right from my model. So when I click on this circle, if you're too far zoomed out, it may not grab what you want it to grab. So you just may need to zoom in. So I can grab that circle, I click it. I'm going to zoom out, move my mouse over here, and place the 10. I'm going to grab this part right here, but it says radius 12. I don't want to I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to right click, and instead of radius, which is it kind of defaulted to, I want a diameter. And I'm going to zoom out and place that right there. Still in the dimension tool, I'm going to grab this. Since I just got done doing a diameter, it's going to do another diameter, but I don't want that. I'm going to right click and say this time I want the radius, and then click to place it. So I've got all three of those, and I don't have to enter those numbers in. It's going to grab them straight from my drawing, straight from my model. So the last thing, I need an 18, a 36, and a 90, and those are all diameters. So make sure that you've got the dimension tool selected. I'm going to grab this one, is in, can't remember where I put them. 18, a 36, and a 90. Yeah, 18, 36, and 90. Great, so those are all the dimensions on this top part. I'm going to kind of pan down here and then zoom in on this one. Only dimensions I need here is the 15 millimeters on the total, and then the 9 millimeters on this recessed part right here. There is a center line going down the center of my model, so I'm going to make sure that I add that. I'm going to start the center line tool. I'll grab the top part of my model and the bottom part of my model. I'll add that center line. I'm going to go ahead and hit the escape command to get out of that. I'm going to select it. I'm going to drag these gray arrows so that they go all the way through the model. So you can kind of see the center line. That just shows you it's symmetric above and below that, about that plane. Start my dimension tool again. I can either grab this corner and this corner and drag it out and say 15, or I can click on this line and this line and click and place the 9. The last thing I want to do, I'm going to hit the escape command. I'm going to double click on this area right here. I'm going to type in the word plate. And then click somewhere else so it saves it. Then come over here and hit Finish Properties. So that is a model for my plate. We'll go ahead, save that. And then we'll come over here, do a quick add. We'll do another one. And you can see, you can just follow these through. I'm going to do the frame. It's a little bit more complex. and then the rest of the parts you should be able to do easily on your own. So once again, I need the isometric view of my model, and I need the 3 orthogonal views. So we'll go ahead, start out with a base view, pick my scale. We've been using 2 to 3. I need to show the isometric view, and I want to make sure that this is shaded. And let's go ahead and make a mistake on purpose. I'm going to leave it just as visible edges. I'm going to click and place it and say OK, and it shows up just visible edges, and I can still uncheck all the parts that I don't want, so I'm just left with the frame, but I want this to be shaded. All you have to do is double click on this. It'll open up the box again, and I can just change the style to shaded and hit close, and I'm good to go. Okay, open up another. Let me see, I want this kind of side view up here. So I'm going to create a base view. That's kind of the right proper view, it's the side. I'm going to make sure it's the right size. I'm going to do visible and hidden edges. Kind of place this up here and say OK. I'm going to go ahead and hide all those other things that I don't want. Uncheck those. So I've got my frame, side of my frame right there. We'll see if we can do projected. Let's see if I can hit this. Come down. Great. That's the kind of the top view that I want. Sometimes it doesn't give you the view you want. It'll make it look weird. So if it doesn't do that, you can just put another base view in, but then you have to kind of line it up manually. We go ahead and select this and hit the check mark. Since this one had visible and hidden edges, this has visible and hidden edges. And then the last one, we need one more view over here, which is kind of that view from the back side. So I'm just going to hit another base view, and I'm going to keep adjusting this. That's the view I want. Got to make sure it's the right size, 2 to 3. And we'll kind of put that in right there. And I want hidden edges. I'll say OK. Uncheck all the parts that I don't want. And there you go. I've got the 3 different views that I have in this drawing. So same thing, I'm going to go ahead and add all the center lines and all the center marks for the circles and all the center lines down the middle of the frame and down the middle of this part as well. And then we'll start doing the dimensions over here. So we'll do center mark on that hole. We'll do center line. I'm going to grab this edge inside of the left, inside of the right, and it gives me that center line. And then I'm also going to grab the outside and the inside. It's going to be a little center line right there. And same thing again, if you want to click on these, hit escape. Select this. You can move that gray triangle up or down to make sure that it's obvious that thing is symmetric the whole way through. Okay. So now we just have to start putting dimensions on. So I want this 18 to this point. Now let's do the center of the circle. Let's do 84 and 75 first. Grab my dimension tool. I'm going to go from the center of the circle up to this line. Kind of drag my mouse out here and say 75. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click this center of my circle. And instead of clicking this face or this face, I'm going to click this corner right here. And it'll show me some of the functionality. Fusion can show me the straight line distance between those 2 points. If I move my mouse over here, it's going to show me the vertical distance, which I already have. And if I just move my mouse down here, it kind of takes a while. Move my mouse down here, it gives me that horizontal distance that I want, 84 millimeters. So I'll click and place that. So I've got the 84 and the 75. So we'll do the 18 off the front, 18 off the back, and the 170. So we'll grab the dimension. We'll go from this point to that point, and it should automatically be 18. And I don't want this 18 on the inside of my model. I want it over here on the outside. I'm going to hit the escape command to get out of that. Select the 18, grab that little gray dot, and I can kind of move it over there. I'll start my dimension tool again. From here to here is also 18. From this dot to that line is 12. And same thing, I'm going to place this, but I want to slide it over here to the left. So I'm going to hit escape, select it, and then grab that gray dot to slide it over there. Grab my dimension tool again. I'm going to grab this arc. It's already as a radius. I can't remember if it's on the inside or outside. It's on the inside. So I'll slide this 170 in there, place that. And what else do I need? An 18 and a 36, I think. So make sure you get the dimension tool. Click and place the 18. Click and place the 36. So those are all the dimensions on my top piece. Or I should say on this side view. Come over here to the center one. And on this one I just have the diameters, 18, 36, 90, and 108. I don't have to remember these values. Those are already set in Fusion. Those are set by my model. I just have to grab it. This is my 18. This circle is my 36. Click this circle and click to place. Click this outside circle, move my mouse, and click to place. So I've got all four of those marked off pretty handily. And then I need these last couple dimensions. This is 6 thick, and this is 18, and it's 34 from the edge. So I can come into here. I still have my dimension tool selected. From here to the center should be 34. And this is the great check to make sure if your model's designed properly. These numbers should come up without you having to enter anything in. So I'm going to go ahead, select my dimension tool. I'm going to grab the inside part of that frame and the outside part and place the 6. The outside of that, or the inside and the outside, and place the 18. And then what else do I need? Oh, I need a 12 thick and a 15 thick. So I'm going to grab, for the 15, I'm going to go from, I can either go from this corner to this corner will give me 15. I can just click on this edge as being 15, or I can grab this top line and this bottom line and say that that's 15. Doesn't matter how you do it. I'm going to grab this and this bottom edge and say that it's 12. And I've got both of those above the frame. So I'm going to hit the escape key, get out of my dimension tool. I'm going to click on it once to select it, grab the gray dot and move it up where I like it. Click on this one, grab the gray dot, and kind of slide over so I'm not hitting the green thing, and place that one where I like it as well. Last thing, this one says plate. It's certainly not the plate, so I got to remember to come in here, and this one is the frame. So let me see if it changes all those. Let me finish properties. So this should be the frame piece. Let me come back over here, and that's the plate. Okay. So I'm guessing if I start a new sheet, it'll say frame as well. We'll just have to come in and name this one hub. Okay. Let me just do I'll do just this view so I can show you how to do the 3.5 degrees. And then everything else should be stuff that we've already done so far. So I'm going to insert a base view. I'm going to select the proper size. I'm going to select visible and hidden edges. And I want That's the view I want. I'll put it right there and say OK. I'm going to start getting rid of all the things that I don't want. And now I'm left with the hub. And that's kind of, it's a little bit hard to see with all of those edges in there. So I'm going to double click on that and just go back to solid edges, because that's the view that I've got right there. I need to put those center lines in. So we'll go ahead and do a center line from this top edge to bottom edge. We're going to make that bigger in just a second. And I'm also going to put another center line right there in the center. So I'm still in the center line command. I'm going to hit escape to get out of it. Select this center line and drag the arrow up, drag the triangle down. And then same thing with this one, just so we see that it's symmetrical about both of those axes. And then to put in that angle measurement, just start the dimension tool, grab this horizontal line, grab that edge that is angled, and then if you're above here, it's going to try to do that huge angle. If you put your mouse in between those two, it'll give us a 3.5. Go ahead, escape. And if this isn't quite long enough, you can kind of drag it out, just so it's clear that it's 3.5 between that horizontal. I would add the isometric view. I would hub at an angle. I'd grab that other part. I'd put in this view and this view, and we'll label it hub. Okay. And I'm just continuing to add these sheets as I go along, doing the same manner until you have sheets for all the parts. You should put your dimensions in the same spot in the same way. Don't add any extra dimensions. Don't miss any dimensions. Your PDFs should look exactly like the PDFs provided for all the plates. For the flange, you only need to do one of the flanges. They're copies of each other. For the caster, kingpin, shaft, and the bushing. Okay, and everything should be fine from there. Make sure that when you're done, make sure that you save everything. You go ahead and save it and hit OK. And then once your drawings are set, it'll have it saved as a file here in your Fusion folder. You want to come down, export as PDF. Go ahead and leave all these as default and hit OK. And then you're going to save this to your laptop somewhere. Give it a name that you can find and can recognize. And then this is the PDF file that you will upload where your instructor told you to for the assignment. If you have any questions, please email me. Thanks so much.